Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack make it backflip. Telly Hank with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the Bay.
One photo of 3 masked suspects and 2 pictures of a getaway car. That is all police are releasing to the public as clues as to who set a fire that killed 5 people, including 2 little kids. But a former FBI agent tells 9 News reporter Katie Eastman those few photos, they could be enough to lead police to answers.
To the untrained eye, these surveillance photos might leave doubt that anyone will ever learn who these people are. Police say they are suspected of intentionally setting a fire that killed 5 family members in Denver's Green Valley Ranch neighborhood.
Fortunately, I have looked at many crimes like this.
A former FBI agent sees something else in this new evidence. Trained as a criminal profiler, Clint Van Zandt says photos of 3 masked suspects and their getaway car gives police and the public enough to start digging.
I've been involved in cases like this before. If you identify the make and model of vehicle, you pull the registration of every vehicle within 100 miles.
That's the job of the police, but Van Zandt says pieces of this photo might spark a memory from the public, too. Maybe a cashier at a store remembers a specific purchase.
So someone at some store would realize that 3 or more masks were bought at one time. We call that a clue. That could break this case wide open.
Or someone else saw 3 people in hoodies in the area of the arson on August 5th.
Did these guys stop at a 7-Eleven? Did they stop at a gas station that night?
Denver police are not releasing the surveillance video that these screenshots come from. They said this is sufficient right now, and they don't want to jeopardize the investigation. Katie Eastman, 9 News.
And Denver police won't even say whether or not they've received any tips since releasing the photos yesterday afternoon.
It is so incredibly heartbreaking to imagine. 5 members of one family died last year when their house was set on fire. And we are now learning those 3 teenagers who police say are responsible didn't even intend for the Jal family to be the targets. Denver 7's Lance Hernandez is following this story, joins us live from outside the now demolished home. And Lance, this is tragic, it's baffling, so many things.
It is so hurtful. You know, those teenagers, ages 15 and 16, were apparently seeking retribution for a drug deal gone awry and went to the wrong house. The 2 16-year-olds are being charged as adults. The 15-year-old is a juvenile. We are told that prosecutors are going to seek transfer to district court for that one. Today, we reached out to family representatives to get their reaction to all of this news.
The safest place that anybody could be is your house.
Jibril Jill, his wife Aja, daughter Khadija, sister Hassan, and niece Hawabaye were in this house when teenagers allegedly set it on fire. Sources told Denver 7 3 teenagers were apparently carrying out retribution for a drug deal gone awry, but targeted the wrong house.
To have 5 precious lives like this taken by mistake, it doesn't make it easier.
Papa Ja of the African Leadership Group is a spokesman for the family. He says they're surprised by the age of the suspects, but are glad arrests have been made.
We want everybody that's been involved in this to be held accountable.
16-year-olds Gavin Seymour and Kevin Bui and an unnamed 15-year-old were in court this morning to hear the charges against them. That hearing was closed.
He cries every day.
Qusair Mohammed Bai represents Jibril Joe's father. He says there is no explanation that will fix how anyone in the family feels.
They're completely lost. They're devastated. They're confused as to why.
He said the Gilles family fled Senegal, where they had seen some of the worst of humanity, to seek a better life in the U.S. They had found just that until one night last August.
We have 2 families of my clients who are forever changed, forever broken, and now we have the children of 3 other families who will likely also be forever broken because of the unbelievably horrible and poor decisions, the criminal decisions that these juveniles made.
The teen suspects facing multiple charges of murder, attempted murder, arson, burglary.
CBS 4 investigator Brian Moss has confirmed that one of the teenagers accused in the deadly house fire has confessed. His sources also say the three suspects set fire to the wrong home, mistaking it for another in the dark. Federal charges now filed for a woman arrested during the investigation into a deadly fire that killed 5 family members in Denver. Earlier this week, investigators announced 3 teenagers were in custody for last summer's fire. During a search for evidence this week, investigators say they found a large quantity of marijuana and a firearm in a relative's room. Tanya Bowie's initial court appearance this afternoon has since been delayed. She is not charged in the arson investigation. Now, suspect Kevin Bowie's older sister, Tanya Bowie, will also face charges related to this deadly fire. She was in court today on drug and weapons charges. The prosecutor said the charges related to the gruesome crime would be forthcoming. She's accused of being involved in the planning.
Damn, we back. It's your boy Popalot. Mobb ties. We on our way to Colorado, the Denver area, Green Valley Ranch to be exact. This shit crazy. Now, today we are going to be covering a young lady by the name of Tanya Bowie. But this case has wide-scale ramifications, and it is going to start with an arson that occurred on August 5th of 2020 in the Green Valley Ranch area. A house was set ablaze. 5 people were killed, including 2 children. Now, it would be at least 6 months before police was able to identify any suspects. And I'm still not sure how, because the suspects wore masks. Police did have information on a getaway vehicle, though, and that would be key. Now, one night, police officers are going to pull behind 16-year-old Kevin Bowie's vehicle in early September 2020. About a month had passed since the deadly fire in Green Valley Ranch. Now, investigators have released photos of 3 suspects, ghostly-like figures in sweatshirts and full masks, as well as pictures of a car that was thought to be involved in the crime. It was a dark 4-door sedan with tinted windows, but it would be months before authorities would go on to charge Kevin and his 16-year-old friend Gavin Seymour and an unnamed 15-year-old with that arson in those murders. Now, this is going to be where the story takes a turn. Now, when police officers pulled up that night, Kevin stopped his car. He waited for officers to step out and started to walk towards him. He would then take off from the officers. Now, put yourself in the mind of a 16-year-old. Now, they probably stopping him, and not even a 16-year-old, to be honest. This can be anybody that's hot in the streets, got shit going on. They could be stopping you for a minor traffic violation. He blew the dash and led them on a chase. In his mind, he probably thinking they on him for the murders. That's not even the case, because it would be months before they would charge him. But he would text his older sister, and in an exchange, she would go on to say, "Now you just made the car even hotter. I don't know what to tell you, but WTF." And there would be that text exchange amongst several others that would draw her right smack dab center in the middle of this arson and murder investigation, along with a drug trafficking and gun charge. Now, authorities would catch one of Tanya's drug trafficking organization when investigating Kevin for the arson. They noticed that his phone was registered in her name. She was paying the bills. That led them to investigate Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, as well as iCloud accounts. Now, they're going to say that text messages show that Kevin frequently dealt drugs at his sister's request, at least one time leaving school to do so. So authorities are going to say Kevin carried out about 30 drug deals at his sister's direction over 55 days between July and September 2020, according to those text messages. They're going to say he met customers in Lakewood, Thornton, Wheat Ridge, Littleton, and Denver. And he stopped at places like McDonald's restaurants, single-family homes, apartments, street corners, and paint shops. Now, they would highlight a specific thread where Tanya would go on to ask Kevin, do you want to go serve some people for me? And this was text on August 3rd, 2020. Kevin answered where, and she replied Evans and Tijan and 9th and Downing. She would also respond, I'll pay for your tank if you want to go. Kevin would respond, A-OK. So this seems pretty harmless until you got that night on August 2020 where everything seems to shake down. And where it goes really, really, really bad for Tanya is once they investigated Snapchat, authorities would go on to find text exchanges with her looking to sell Glock handguns. On September 19th of 2020, they're going to say that her account sent a picture of what appeared to be a kilo of powder cocaine with a trafficking stamp of R on it to a specific user. Now, if you was the person that happened to receive that Snapchat picture and you're listening, get a good lawyer. You might have some company on the way. Now, for some of those that might be lost and thinking, well, how is she on Mobb Ties when she is not the one that was charged with the arson? It was her little brother and his friend. This is where it takes a turn for the wild. Now, I'm thinking that the government is going to say that that house that they burned down, that allegedly happened in a drug deal gone wrong. Looking at the case that they're facing at least 60 counts, and none of them were drug related. So with that being said, and the sister being charged with firearm and drug trafficking offenses, and the little brother doing drug errands and runs for her, that's all I'm going to say about that situation. Now, she was facing 10 years on a drug count. She was just being tied to the arson investigation. Authorities are not saying how she's being tied to the arson investigation. I guess they're saving that for trial. But you can use your imagination, because I think I might know exactly what's going on. Now, this should be a lesson to those in the streets that they could be your family, they could be a close friend, but not everybody is ready. Watch what you do, watch who you use. Now, in that text exchange that we spoke about earlier, where she told him, I don't know what to tell you, bud, after he sped off from the police, he would go on to tell her, I don't know why they was looking for my car unless they recognized it. They also highlight where she sent him to buy a phone with cash and not use his name. He would go on to respond later on that day, I didn't have any cash, I ended up using my card. She will respond promptly, great, now they have a way to track you. So you gotta be careful who you dealing with. And for the young dudes that are listening, do not get on these crash missions, because it's dangerous and ain't no seatbelts in those cars. This is education and not glorification. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Popalot. Y'all make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, POP_A_LOT. Y'all hit the bell right under this video so y'all know when this real Trill Spill shit is dropping. Y'all get at me in the comments below, on IG in the direct messages. Email me, call me, text me, CC me, however y'all want to handle this. Your boy Popalot. It's the Mobb. Mobb, Mobb, Mobb.